Welcome to the Mike and JD Show YouTube channel. Thank you for being here. I want you to do me a big favor before you check out this clip. I want you to hit the like button. I want you to throw in a comment and make sure you're a subscriber to this channel. And then I want you to share this video with your friends. Help us defeat the algorithm. And then if you like this content and you appreciate this content, please head over to patreon.com/the Mike and JD Show and support the show. That is how we actually get funded to be able to do this. So we thank you very much for being here. And now enjoy the.
This podcast is a member of the Voices of Wrestling Podcasting Network. Visit voicesofwrestling.com to hear the rest of our great podcasts, as well as show reviews, columns, opinions, and updates across the world of wrestling.
Competition starting to get thick, it's the click, so I hope you watch your A game. A made no rain from the track when we unite and spit. This is an A game, better bring your A game. Competition starting to get thick, it's the click, so I hope you watch your A game. A made no rain from the
tremendous, but back to CM Punk. I loved this interview. Very about it. I don't agree with a lot of it. I don't agree with the assessment that AEW is not a business and that they don't care about ticket sales and that they don't care about pay-per-views. I do think that they care about them. I think that they have just a difference of opinion how to get to those points. And I think CM Punk's idea of what wrestling is, I happen to agree with a lot of what he thinks wrestling should be. I think that if I were to, like, if you're asking me who would I rather hang out with, like the Young Bucks or CM Punk, I'm a bit cantankerous. I'm probably going to want to have a steak with CM Punk. Very likely. That's just who I am. I happen to enjoy jerks for some reason. It's just me. But
if given the choice between those guys, I'd rather try to find John Moxley, quite frankly.
Yes. Yeah, John Moxley too.
That's the answer to that question.
Yeah, I disagree with the criticism that AEW is not a business that's trying to grow and trying to succeed. They're not growing right now at the moment. I think they will once they get this TV deal, and maybe that would lead to something else. But the only company that's actually like super successful right now and getting bigger is the WWE, and it's difficult in the landscape. But I'm not going to sit here and say that AEW is a failure because they're not growing. They're stable, right? They're not like, people want to say the term flatlining, right? And I think this is a Bischoff term, flatlining, because they're not going like this. Well, you know what? That's stability to me.
Yeah.
Like that is good, especially with the decline in in cable homes and all those things. Like, it's stability.
They're the number 3 show in cable television for entertainment. They're number 3. Raw is 1. Vanderpump is 2. They're 3. Well, how is that a failure? And it's funny that Bischoff would see stability as a failure because he knows nothing but spikes and crashes. A lot more crashes, quite frankly. Like, and it just, I get so tired of the narrative that it's a failure. Like, businesses have ups and downs. And like what Dave's always said, when number 1 is hot, it's hard to be number 2. Right. Yeah. And I do think they had some creative fumbles last year that have hurt them. But I mean, they had 2 recent Dynamites were were like 10,000 people apiece in both Boston and in Toronto. They had a really good crowd last night or 2 nights ago, right? Like, they're doing okay. It's not phenomenal, but I mean, like, it's not like, dude, we lived through WCW.
Yeah.
Like, we're not talking about, like, I'm not talking about dying days WCW. You should watch like 1991 WCW. Like, there's some bad crowds there. There's some bad crowds, and Eric Bischoff led WCW. So I mean, like, I just, Eric Bischoff is the worst of the grifters, and Punk too. Punk's like, you just want to, like, trying to get 5 stars from some goof. It's like, oh, that's a goof that you talk to. I love that we can finally say that the Punk camp is CM Punk.
Yeah.
Like, the veneer's finally off. We can just all finally go, yeah, the Punk camp, quote unquote, is CM Punk.
We found the leaker in the AEW locker room. He now works for WWE.
Yeah. And when he gets healthy again, leaks will come, because they always do. Like, that guy talks to the media, and always has. He comes from the Paul Heyman / Eddie Gilbert school of knowing how to work the media.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I don't agree with that assessment. Have they made some mistakes? Several.
Yeah, several.
Absolutely. Could they have booked things differently? Of course, right? Would he's like, when he got signed to AEW, he said that he was told it was going to be one thing and then it wasn't. I think what he was told it was going to be was, something that was powerful enough to potentially overtake WWE, and that's just not what it is.
It's not real.
Right?
That was never.
But I'll be honest, I think a lot of us wanted it to be that. I know I personally, when it came around, because it was like the last days of the Vince era were so bad. It's like, to where I grew up my whole life watching WWE. And it just got so bad by like 2017 that I just couldn't anymore. I just could not watch it anymore. And so when AEW did come around, TNA was basically dead at the time. AEW comes around, I'm like, okay, finally, maybe this will take over. And that's what I wanted. And I think there were some weeks where like demo rating, Dynamite was pretty damn close to Raw. Pretty close. And so I was like, okay, maybe we're gonna get there. So that's what I wanted it to be, and then it just didn't become that. Because Vince left, the booking got stronger in WWE, they got hot, they get Cody, right? And then now they're just not like, dude, they got NXT, 13,000 people for NXT on Friday. It's awesome. Like ridiculous, right? Like a ridiculous house for NXT. So they're just off to the races. So they're so far ahead. It'll take like a catastrophe for AEW to be able to catch up. You know what I mean?
And here's where I'm at: is I never thought that they would overtake WWE like that, and I was never interested in that because I was a WCW fan, and a lot of my fandom of WCW, they were smaller than WWE. Like I drank Pepsi, right, for when I was growing up. Like I like Taco Bell. That was like again, I've always been more like, if I'm gonna get a burger, I'm gonna go to Five Guys. Like I like having the alternative company. And that's all I ever wanted. That's why I don't get mad about what AEW is, because I'm fine. If they don't, again, it's not my business. I don't care. I don't care if AEW is able to siphon off WWE fans, because I don't think that they should. I think they should. I've said this on our show a million times. I think that they should be cultivating their own fans, right? And not trying. We've said, what's our phrase? Fuck the casuals, right? Because the casuals don't like what AEW does, and that's fine. Like there's people that go to restaurants that don't like this, I'm going to get that. Like there's not enough of that in wrestling to think of like, man, I'm not a fan of Coke, I'm going to drink Pepsi, right? And that's all I've ever like. Pepsi is never going to overtake Coke, never. But we don't sit there and call Pepsi a dramatic failure because it doesn't sell what Coke does. Like Pepsi is super successful, and it's the challenger brand, and it's always done a good job of lining itself up with a different audience. So like I never had those expectations for AEW, right? That's why I guess that's why I don't like these arguments, because it's like I didn't ever see that as being a possibility. Maybe I'm a fatalist. I don't know.
No, I think you're just a realist. And I think that's okay. So now, here's where the grift is. And I don't want to talk about Bischoff. I actually listened to some of what Bischoff said, because he has Ant Evans on his new podcast. Ant Evans he was a UFC guy that helped build their YouTube channel and built their Hall of Fame. And he went over to TNA, and like their YouTube channel is a pretty sustainable income for them. And so I was like, okay, I want to listen to what Ant has to say about YouTube and building YouTube and YouTube growth. Because guess what? I'm now in the YouTube business with this channel. Starting next week, we should be able to get ads on our feed. So that's what we're Yeah. We've almost reached the threshold. So we're coming up on it. So I was like, I wanted to listen to what Ant had to say. So, and look, not everything that Bischoff says is bad. A lot of it is, but that's okay. So, but I don't want to make this about him. But here's where the grift is, right? They're never going to be successful to a lot of these people in the podcast business, the Cornettes and Bischoff and all these guys, Alfred. They're never going to be successful until they beat WWE. When they get their next TV deal, they're going to be very profitable, right? They're going to be a sustainable business that's going to be around much longer than WCW was. Not like the Mid-Atlantic and all, like
WCW.
WCW proper, when Turner bought it from Crockett, that WCW. Yes. So they're going to be sustainable for a lot longer than that, because they have an owner that is committed to it. They're going to get another TV deal that's probably going to get them to be highly profitable. So they're going to be around a long time. So then they're not going to be saying, oh, well, they're losing money every year. So they're not going to have that argument anymore. So the argument is the goalpost moving is going to be, well, they didn't get $5 billion like Raw did. Right. They can do Wembley. Right. But then they'll say, well, they didn't create as much revenue as WrestleMania. Right. So like, it's always going to be compared to so stop chasing WWE and it's only listen to the grifters, because the grifters are only going to get you in trouble. Right. They're going to only get you chasing ghosts that you don't want to chase. Like JD said, there's like, graveyards littered with the bones of wrestling companies that tried to be like WWE. Right.
I love
like
when you quote me.
Yeah, it's a great quote. So don't even go there. Don't even go there. So like you're not going to be that, right? Unless something catastrophic happens, but continuing to be the best version of you that you can be, right? And so that's what AEW needs to be, and they need to continue to hone their identity and stop trying. And I don't think they're doing it as much anymore this year.
No, I agree.
Trying to catch WWE because just fucking keep putting on awesome shows, right? Like that's all I care about. Put on awesome shows. Make me care about the TV show.
I think in 2019 and 2020 is hard to count because it's such a weird year. But in 2019 and 2021 and most of 2022, they were really about establishing their own identity, right?
Yeah.
And their shows were different. And then late 2022 into 2023, I really think they started listening to those grifters. I think that Tony was listening to the wrong folks, and we have to grow. We have to do this. And it turns out one of those folks he might have been listening to, who was being paid as a consultant, might be working in WWE right now. Yeah. So they started really chasing those WWE fans. And I'll maintain that they turned off a lot of their fan base because I'm one of them. I came on this show and was like, meh, like very lukewarm to everything AEW did in 2023. Like, and I find that now they're really just committing to what they do. Hey, we do awesome wrestling. I like they've kind of adopted. If you notice, Edge, Adam Copeland said, "We're the best." What would he say? AEW with the best wrestlers.
Well, yeah. Tony Khan's been trying to get that over. The announcers are saying that's their word. The big boys play.
Big boys play. That's Mm-hmm. Or the NWA had one too. The NWA, they had something like that too in the late 80s. Like, I like that. That is how you differentiate yourself.
Yeah.
Right. And they have to stick with that because that is their brand. That is what they are. We talked about this. We've said this ad nauseum. Be who you are. Don't worry about who they are.